Hey folks, this is Matt once again, and welcome back to another review. And actually I was going to review this since I'm doing a little mini John Woo marathon after this one. But actually I'm going to leave this one for the last of this John Woo series because it's hard to boil, that's why. So, before that, I will review this film, Paycheck. And the other ones like Wind Talkers, which I didn't like, his other stuff like Bullet to the Head or Once a Thief, Mission Possible 2, Red Cliff, which I have no interest in. Maybe one day, way down the road, but anyway. Get into Paycheck. This is a film I reviewed a couple years ago and wanted to re-review it because that review from a few years ago is only 15 minutes long. I can talk about this for a bit longer because I enjoy this movie. I enjoy Paycheck. It's a lot of people don't like it. It got a 20-some% Rotten Tomatoes. It was a big box office flop. When the film came out, Ben Affleck won a Razzie Award, and he apologized for it on Saturday Night Live when he hosted. I know Kevin Smith made a knock against this because someone was asking his opinion because Ben Affleck, this is on one of the Q&As, and people say, what about Paycheck? And Kevin Smith pretty much said, the title says it all, aka Kevin, that Ben only did it for a paycheck. The only people I know that like this film is me, my friend Mike, and this woman from CBS TV. A lot of people don't like the film because it's a John Woo movie that is PG-13, even though Mission Impossible 2 is PG-13. But they feel that it doesn't have a lot of action, the story didn't draw them in. And I don't know what to say about that. All I can say is I disagree. One of the reasons I enjoy this film a lot is because I really liked the story based on Philip K. Dick. Now, granted, if I want to see a great, awesome A-plus movie about a guy who his memory's fucked up, people are chasing him, I'll watch Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is a better movie. But I don't think this film is that bad. What I like about this film is it brings up the idea, and also if people don't know who Philip K. Dick is, his stories became films like Blade Runner, Minority Report, I believe Screamers. And what I like about the idea, what if you could write your own history? Because Ben Affleck is an engineer, he does these jobs, and then at the end of the job, his memory gets wiped. The reason he does that on purpose, the companies don't want a competing company to try to get information from him, or they make 100% sure that Ben Affleck won't give the information to another company and make more money and fuck over their corporation and so forth. So he'll work, weeks or the job he's at the beginning is a few months, and his buddy Paul Giamatti, who I like as an actor, will wipe his memory from the time he started up to pretty much that point. And then Aaron Eckhart comes up to him and says, hey, I have a new job for you, only this will take years. And you'll get a humongous paycheck, and you'll get stocks, and Ben Affleck's not sure, but ultimately he does it. There's a woman who works there played with Uma Thurman, who I thought she did a good job in this. It's actually one of the roles I enjoy the most. I mean, her best film, no. I would say my favorite is Kill Bill, the Kill Bill films. But I thought Uma Thurman did a fine job in this flick. She held her own. I also like that you have Joe Morton from Terminator 2 and Speed in the movie. Michael C. Hall from Gamer, which I reviewed. That's an underrated film. And Dexter, the TV show. Colm Feore, which if you look up that guy, you'll notice he's been in a lot of stuff. long story short, after he has come back and Aaron Eckhart says, hey, your job's done, wipe the memory. He goes to get his money, which he hears is $92 million. And when he gets there, this girl tells her, hey, wait a minute, there is no money. And Ben's like, what are you talking about? And she goes, you forfeited it. You came in here weeks ago and you forfeited it. And Ben's like, well, but wait a minute, why would I do that? And these aren't even my items. These aren't even the stuff I gave you. And she's like, well, yeah, I mean, you exchanged them. And he looks and there's about 20 items. And throughout the film, it's kind of a weird, I don't want to say weird, but kind of in a way a sci-fi MacGyver. I know my good guy John Zero Cool, he mentioned how they're rebooting MacGyver and that's not going to work today, and I agree. I don't see how that character can work today. A, with the PC reasons of no, don't show how kids could do this in real life, and B, because of technology, you have an iPhone. You just look the shit up. You look everything up in your hand with a phone. So with just the way technology is, I don't know, MacGyver won't work. But in a way, if it's done like this, it does work. But like I was saying at the beginning, what I looked into this movie, what if you could write your own history? And so when Ben Affleck's character gets his memory wiped, he is now living the history that he's written himself, only he's not going to remember it because this don't sound really thin like a stretch, but it's the best way I could describe it. It's like you program a video game that you go through a set of rules to get to your goal, right? But then somehow you're able to wipe out your memory, and then you're able to play the game, and you yourself have written where this is going to go, but because your memory's been wiped, these items that you have at the beginning, they don't have to be used, but you don't know how. And people say, well, the storyline is cliche. Well, they don't say it's cliche. They say it's incoherent, or it's, what's the right word, that it's preposterous, that, well, first off, it's sci-fi. So, or that it's very, not only is it very dumb, or very stupid, but they say, but it's, God, there's a certain word for it. I don't want to say coincidence, but it's kind of like that. But it's like, oh, well, that's a bit of luck that he does this, that's a bit of luck that he does that, and so on and so forth. But when you find out later on how this is all going on, the machine that he helped Aaron Eckhart build was to see into the future. In fact, they even see into the future predicts a plague and a war, but it's because you were able to see that is why the plague and war is going to happen. So Ben Affleck has to, after he finds it, has to destroy the machine. And again, all this stuff that people say, well, it's very, God, there's a certain word and I'm drawing a blank on it. But that's what the story is going for at the same time. Now, if you don't think that's an interesting story, I don't know. We didn't agree to disagree. But I haven't seen a film like that before, where really the lead guy it's like he's directed the movie. I mean, it's like he has, because if you see into the future, it's like, okay, if I do this, okay, that'll do that, okay, that won't work, maybe if I do this, and that he has been able to create and plan ahead so that when his memory wiped, this set of events will happen. That's what I'm talking about. He's written his own history. He's written his own second chance. He looked into it, saw that he was going to die from this. Joe Moore and the FBI guys are trying to get information from him, and maybe people get confused because you don't see the exposition on that. But I'm glad for that, because it would have been 15, 20 minutes of boring exposition. And I'm like, I didn't need that because I could figure it out in my head. that that's what they're going with, just for the idea of it's like a director writing a script. Well, that's not. In a way, it is, because Ben Affleck, his character has written his own script by this machine. And also, that's the thing, is that who knows what can happen if you actually have a machine that can see into the future. I mean, it is sci-fi. So, I mean, the whole, people who have problems with the plot, I disagree with it. I completely got it. I completely went with it, and I thought it was interesting. And I remember seeing this in the theater the first time and being just like Ben Affleck's character. Okay, he's got a paperclip. I wonder where that's going to happen. Okay, he's got a bullet. I mean, one of the items is all these weird stuff. Matchstick, or matchbook, I should say. Weird, funky glasses. It's just, it was fun, and anytime I watch the film, I relive that, of this sort of sci-fi MacGyver. Wait, is this what I'm supposed to use here? Oh, okay then. And people say, oh, it's preposterous. First off, it's sci-fi. Second off, that's the idea of the movie, is that this guy, before his memory's wiped, is able to write his own future. And maybe people think I'm full of shit, or people just don't like the idea. I don't know which is which, but that's one of the interesting things for me. And plus, I thought the cast did a good job. I think Ben Affleck, he's a guy that gets hated on a lot, but I enjoy his Daredevil, especially the director's cut. I enjoy his work with Kevin Smith, from Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Phantoms. You the bomb in Phantoms, yo. I like Ben Affleck. And when I heard he was Batman, I didn't have a problem with it. It's just everything else I had a problem with it. But even as a director, I liked Argo. I really enjoyed The Town. I liked his directing Gone Baby Gone. And I would say between the three, I would say The Town's the best of the three. I've always liked Ben Affleck, and this is a film I do enjoy. I mean, I would put Daredevil, especially the director's cut, above this and such, but this I do think is a pretty damn underrated film. I don't think it's that bad to have flopped as badly as it did, to have gotten so critically destroyed, and no one ever talks about Paycheck. Actually, I think maybe there's two more people. I mean, I said three, me, my friend Mike, and this, but I know there's a good guy named Tony who I think he liked it. I think there's another good guy named JW Universe. I think he didn't mind the film either. So that's 5 people, including myself, that I know. The only people who like the film. The top 5, or the only 5. But, you know, I enjoyed the scene where after he's wiped his memory, he's training with a bow, tests his reflexes. Paul Giamatti, I think he does a nice job as the sort of funny guy, but he's not there throughout the entire film either. He pops in once in a while, but when he's there, he makes it work. And Ben Affleck, this is probably the film he did right after Daredevil, so it shows that he still had those skills from training, and he works with a bow very well. And this is a character in which he's been living his life so that his memories are only the highlights. Well, I don't need the boring stuff. My memories can just be the highlights of all the great stuff. And who cares, you know, well, one guy wants to rip off another guy, and, you know, I lose a month or two. I still get a pretty damn good paycheck out of it. And then he goes to his party, meets Uma Thurman, and she has that line of, what, you don't believe in second chances? Which is a part of it, because, again, Ben Affleck's character has written his own second chance. But I figured it out. I understood. Again, I think maybe people, they either don't like the story, they don't like Ben Affleck, which I like Ben Affleck. I really enjoy the story. Again, that's one of the main reasons I like the film so much. The lack of action, well, which I will say, if I could give 1 or 2 gripes. One, I think the pacing could have been a little bit faster. It's an almost 2-hour movie. I think there's snips he could have made throughout the flick, shorten it up by maybe 10 minutes, and or or put in a couple more action scenes, whether it be fight scenes or shootouts. And I didn't expect humongous shootouts because of his character. His character is an engineer. He's not. I mean, even Aaron Eckhart says he's not a super agent. He's good on a motorcycle and so forth, and he does get to do stuff at the end, which I enjoyed. What the action that's there, I enjoy, but yeah, I would not have minded a couple more action beats, particularly maybe in the first half of the film. But other than that, I really liked it. I liked the lab that Uma Thurman works on with all these plans and this electrical arm that she can move by control, which has some fun stuff in the third act, which I enjoyed. Let's see. I like Ben Affleck and Uma Thurman. I thought they worked fine for what they had to do. Like when they first, well, not the first week, but when they're in the lab, and she controls an arm to give him a flower, and she says, "Oh, don't give up." I thought it worked well. I thought Uma Thurman, she looked good in the film, and she acted fine. It's a hell lot better than Batman and Robin or anything of that nature. But again, getting up to it, he gets his memory wiped. Doesn't remember the invention that he worked on with Aaron Eckhart. What happened? Looks in this account. Again, $92 million. I like the little scene where he sees that and he just laughs. I mean, that gives a realistic reaction, in my opinion. Then, that scene where he goes to the bank, and I like the scene where he's like, well, wait a minute, what's all this stuff? What, this hairspray? What's $40 million hairspray? What is this, $100 million sunglasses? Or is this even in style anymore? And then leads to him being tased and taken to the FBI, where agents, Joel Morton, Michael C. Hall and stuff, ask him questions, and he can't remember. I think in the first review, I mentioned how I was a bit confused with this scene because Joel Morton smokes a cigarette and then he looks up and there's a fire thing, and I'm thinking, I might have said this in my first review. I'm like, well, wait a minute, why? How come? How come Joel Morton wouldn't realize that there's a fire thing in his own room? But then when I watched the film and paid attention, there's a scene before his memory's wiped, before he even gets anything started. He's talking with Aaron Eckhart at the party, and Aaron Eckhart says something, and Ben Affleck looks up, and for a bit you see that same thing. And as I'm watching the scene, I go, oh, okay. Before he was wiped, while he was making this big plan, he actually he snuck in, put the thing on there so that when Joel Morton lights the cigarette, then that thing, which was not part of the office in the first place, creates this fog and smoke, I should say. And then Ben gets these glasses and this visor goes over and he can see perfectly while others are wandering around. I think that's why people say it's preposterous, or it's, damn it, there's a certain word I'm trying to think of, but can't think of it. Coincidental. There's another word. But now it's going to fucking drive me crazy. But as I'm looking that damn word up, that's part of the fun that I have watching the film is all these items. It becomes sort of a almost sci-fi version of MacGyver, which I like that idea. And now I gotta fucking look this up because I'm an idiot and I fucking forgot what it was. Coincidental. Circumstantial. No, there's another. God, there's an. There's another word for it. Damn it, now I'm fucking wasting time, I know, but fuck it. Usually my reviews are pretty long anyway. Let's see, chance. I can't help it. Just one of those words that shit. It's not on here. Like I know what it is when I think of it. I'm going to think of it after this video. I know it. But again, that to me is, I guess a lot of people just don't buy the premise. I went with the premise and had fun with it. And he's able to escape, and like for example, he has his diamond ring. Wondering what he does with his diamond ring. Well, it will make this guy run and grab the ring so he can chase after him, which leads him to his next event. Again, it's sort of him now living the history that his old self wrote for him. I like that idea. That's a story I don't see much. Plus, John Woo still has his style to him. Yeah, it's PG-13, but a lot of people don't complain about Mission Impossible 2, and that's PG-13. And that's I mean, my problem with Mission Impossible 2 is that has a couple of decent action bits, but to be honest, I like the action bits in this more, because I actually don't remember the MI2 one. And the story sucks. Like, I don't even remember the fucking story. And the villain, Doug Ray Scott, I'm like, that was the guy who was going to be Wolverine? But then Mission Impossible 2 went over and Hugh Jackman got it. Doug Ray Scott, I thought, sucked as a villain. I like Aaron Eckhart more as a villain. I like the motorcycle scene and the action scene in the lab at the end more than this. All I can remember Mission Impossible 2 is Tom Cruise climbing a mountain, the motorcycle that they fly like 50 feet and collide, and they're perfectly okay. And Tom Cruise turning on his motorcycle and blowing up a car. It's really the only ones I remember. But, you know, maybe that's not being fair. But it's me being honest. I was never a big fan of Mission Impossible 2. I like the first and the third one better, to be honest. But that's not what this review's about. I know people disagree, but that's fine. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of sequences I enjoy. You get to the scene where he meets Paul Giamatti and realizes, because he has this thing and there's a TV showing the lottery numbers. And he looks at it and the numbers match and he realizes this is what's going on. What if you can see the future? That's what the invention's about. And there's a little battle where they're getting shot at. Paul Giamatti escapes. But I do like the scene where he has this hairspray and this lighter, and he creates a little mini flamethrower that hits a guy, which I like. And he has the sort of the John Woo standoff with Colm Feore. And I like this bit too, where he takes the gun cartridge, lets it fall, and he kicks it, and it hits the railway and it explodes, and Colm Feore flies back. I like that. I thought it was well shot. I like the idea with the cartridge just kicking it. Again, that's something I haven't seen too many times either. Actually, to be honest, I can't remember another scene where I have seen that. And I like that bit. And he's chasing the subways coming, and he barely... I think that's another thing that's, he barely gets out of these situations. But again, I've said this many times. It's about history being written. So, again, writing your own history. But, again, I know I repeat myself, but it's not confusing for me to talk about, but for some reason I can see people being confused as I'm talking about it. But as one of the things I watched this film, I never got confused. And again, I even caught a couple things, like in the Joel Morton, the fire device thing. I'm like, oh yeah, we saw it earlier in Aaron Eckhart's his office at the party. I'm sure people are like, well, how the hell did he get in the FBI? There's 100 movies where people get into FBI's and CIA places and 50 other things. I mean, but we don't complain about those. So there's, to be honest, there's a lot of ways you can do it. I mean, especially again, they've developed that his character is smart, is a kind of a genius. So if it was some guy who worked at a gas station, that's one thing. Unless it was Good Will Hunting, well, then that would explain it. Which I know at one time they actually wanted Matt Damon to play this. Which now that reminds me, a lot of people compare the Bourne films to this because it's about a guy who got amnesia. Although this isn't amnesia, but talk about that movie. I don't like the Bourne films. I've seen the first three. I saw them a couple months ago, and I didn't review them because I fucking forgot them. Matt Damon's not the problem, but those films are severely overrated because the action scenes suck. The fight scenes, maybe they're well choreographed, but I can't tell what the fuck's going on because they have some haphazard editing techniques. Like, John Woo knows how to edit. He's not editing, but he knows how his film should be edited. He knows how to direct an action scene. Those, didn't Martin Campbell do one of them? If so, he did better. Maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking of a different guy. Who did those films? Paul Greengrass, I think, is one. I forget who the fuck the other guys are. I don't think it's Martin Campbell. I can't fucking remember, and I don't care. Bourne films are overrated. Car chases are shitty because you can't understand what the fuck's going on. I'm sorry that I don't have ADD. Because that's the only way I can fucking understand those fucking action scenes. Especially the car chases. Especially the second one where he's in a cop car, going up to Carl Urban. Half the scene, I couldn't fucking tell what the fuck was going on. And the fight scene could be well choreographed, but again, the editing shot at the shit. And those three plots, they're not much to those plots anyway. Matt Damon wants to know who he is. That's the first movie. They killed his woman. He wants to fuck people up. That's the second movie. In the third movie, he has an ultimatum. That's all I remember the fucking plots. And I saw them a few months ago. Again, Matt Damon is the good thing about those. Everything else, no. I don't get what's so good about those movies. That's one of those things that I gave them a shot. Just like, maybe they're not as bad as I remember. I don't remember these movies. Now I know why I don't remember them. Fuck the Bourne films. I know there's a new one coming out. Super Bowl spot. I don't know. Maybe they learn how to edit. Learn how to edit, please. It ruins your fucking action scenes. And then that's a story that doesn't interest me. Like, this story's interesting to me. That story, again, that's a story I'm like, well, fuck it. I'll watch. Well, I guess I could say this. I could watch the original Total Recall as well, but I watched John Wick. That has nothing to do with amnesia, but a guy fucking people up. Anyway, I watched John Wick over this. I'm going off topic, and that's why this fucking video is already 28 minutes long, but that's what I do in my videos. Fuck it. But anyway, I'm sure I'm pissing more people off. You don't like the Bourne films? I would rather watch this. That's my opinion. But, I mean, speaking of car chases, I like the motorcycle chase in this. I like that. Sorry. I like that he's swerving on the motorcycle and he's throwing the rocks and hitting the windshield. And there's a scene where, well, at least to the bad guy's car flipping over and flipping over, not only over, but over them. And yeah, it's not the most, one of the best chases of all time. No, it's not that. But I thought for what it was well done. I like the scene where they go in the tunnel and Uma Thurman's behind him on the motorcycle and they both do this and this big pipe comes up and the cop car chasing him splits in two. I like that. And it was well handled practically. And I thought it was a decent chase scene, motorcycle chase scene. You know, their car blows up, hitting the cylinder while they're riding through it. That happens before that. I thought the cast worked well. Enjoyed the story. The more clues that they looked into, like the stamps, he thought it was just a simple mistake that it was an extra stamp on the envelope, but he realized that he himself in the past actually put that, because you look at this other thing, he has a lens, and it has a little microfilm, which goes into what the machine is about, what it predicted, and that because it predicted it, ultimately it caused it. I mean, it's sort of that story of the guy who he something from the sky fell on him, and he's like, I'm going to move away, and I'm going to, I don't want to die like that. But it's because he moved away is why something from the sky fell on him. It's one of those things that it's because you know it is why it happened. And that's another idea I like. I like the ideas, and that's based on the Philip K. Dick story, short story. And I didn't need tons of exposition. The exposition that we have is looking at the clues and how our hero uses them. Again, sort of I'm going to repeat myself, Sci-Fi MacGyver. And it gets to the finale where they go to the place to destroy the machine. He had rid the machine so that the bad guys can't use it against him. And it's like, how would I have done this? And he has this crossword puzzle that puts on the circuit to find what the wrong circuit is so he can fix it to look at something. And also a bullet to put in electric hydrogen so later on it will explode. Now, this is the one thing I will say of the movie that a lot of people have problems with plot holes. This is one thing that I was a little bit confused on, because Ben Affleck uses the machine at this point and he sees himself die. But then later on, I'm thinking, well, he doesn't die. What did he really do to change that? But my take on it, I think this is what I can do with this film, is I can put my take on it. His older self maybe rigged it that way. Because you do see on the thing there are video files, and even on the screen there's video files you can watch. So maybe Ben Affleck rigged it that way. The old Ben Affleck. So that when his memory wiped version sees it, that is what leads him to separate Uma Thurman from himself, which then leads to her being on the top of the stairs. And he has one last thing that a lot of us forgot, which is a watch, which says go at the perfect times for him and Uma Thurman to get out of the way as a bullet goes by and kills not him but Aaron Eckhart. But again, I think a lot of movies you would have had scenes going back to the non-memory white Ben Affleck. This is what he did here. This is what he did here. This is what he did here. But then they would have had to do that like every single time, or like if not every single time, half the time, at least 6, 7 times. And I think that would have been annoying or take you out of the movie, or I could think for myself on that, and that's my take on it. That's my take on it. But even the action bit, even the finale, I think it has some fun action bits where Uma Thurman is using the electrical arm to grab people's machine guns and put in the Ben Affleck's hands. He shoots at these tanks that blows up, and real stuntmen flying. A real fire explosion. Holy shit. And Uma Thurman with the electrical arm giving Ben Affleck a bow and just beating the shit out of this guy, There's a scene where he takes a guy, throws him in the window through the glass. Some nice work with the bow. I can actually see what's going on. I can actually understand what's going on. It's not shitty editing. And Ben Affleck, again, he was trained to do Daredevil, and he had a bit of that left over. So I like that. And I liked his fighting with the guy, kicking out with the bow. And even takes it and just breaks it over a guy's neck. Doesn't break his neck, but just I just like that idea. Just taking the bolt, breaking it right across a guy's neck. And then that leads to the catwalk and then the scene. Like I said, that there's one last scene. The watch that says go, and she even mentions, "What, you don't believe in second chances?" Earlier in the film, he said no, but here he says, "Yeah, I do," and that's because his older self wrote them the second chance, which they run and dive right at the nick of time as the bullet hits the cylinder that makes everything explode. A practical explosion, well done. And then you have a fun bit at the end where Ben Affleck and Uma Thurman are together, and Paul Giamatti goes arrives there, has some of the birds in the bird cage that Uma Thurman remembers, but Ben doesn't. Ben even asks, are these ours? Wait, these would have been special to us, right? And Uma Thurman's like, yeah, of course. And then he remembers one actual last clue. A little. He thought it was just it was a fortune cookie thing. On the back had the lottery numbers, but actually on the front there was some words passages, and he finds a lottery ticket that was a winner, which supports my theory of how his older self wrote his own history, wrote his own future, I should say, wrote his own future, and Ben Affleck and Paul Giamatti had some fun banter. Hey, what about my cut? What are you talking about cut? It's 5%. No, it's 33%. What? 33%? What are you talking about? Some fun arguing as the movie ends. And I have a fun time with this movie. I have a fun time with this flick. And I know it's a long-ass review. But fuck it. I like the film. I think it's underrated. I don't think it's that bad at all. I would say it's one of my favorite Ben Affleck flicks. I would say it's in my top 5 John Woo films. Hard Target's number 1. Broken Arrow's number 2. Hard Boil's number 3. I think I said that this was number 4 and The Killer's number 5. And that was kind of me wondering, The Killer does have some great action scenes, but I really like the story. And at least The Killer gets respect, while this gets no respect, and I'm sort of a sucker for the underdog, so I'm kind of wishy-washy on that. But this is definitely my top 5. And yes, I do like this more than Face Off, which I know, again, people will be pissed, but I'll take this cast over Nick Cage acting like, I'm not dead. I don't care if the guy's supposed to be drugs or not. I've seen many films with people on drugs, and they're not doing this. I've seen people on drugs in real life. I've seen people on drugs in a lot of movies. None of them act like a goofy fucking. They act like fucking. I guess that's if Donald Duck was on fucking drugs. That's how Nick Cage acts. And it's too long of a movie. And it has a couple good action scenes and a pretty decent score. But, it's too long, pacing too slow. I already did that review. It's an okay film, but I like this story more. I like this cast more. And Face Off gets the respect. I think for me, this should get a bit of respect, but I'm alone in that. Well, not alone. Me and 4 other people. But yeah, I always enjoy the film. I'm sure many people down below will say they'll complain about how long this fucking video is. Second, they'll complain about me bitching about Bourne films and Face Off, which, again, Face Off is okay, but I like these other films more. A lot more. Or third, just bitching because because I like the movie and people will hate that, but I'm not going to change my mind. So I know I repeat myself a lot, but that's just how I do it. That's just how I am. So yeah, to sum it up, I like the cast. I really enjoy the story. I like the bits of action in there. I like the ideas behind it. And I was entertained. Again, my only quibbles, maybe a couple more action scenes, at least in the first half. And there's probably 5-10 minutes you could cut like little stuff. Other than that, I really enjoyed it. Never had a problem with this film. Never understood the hate for this film. Never understood the big FU that the film got. And it's cool if people don't like it, but I'm still going to enjoy it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care. And the next time you'll see me will be a review of my favorite Hong Kong film and Hong Kong action film, Hard Boiled. Classic movie. So either way, thanks for watching and take care. Later.